Hey, folks, welcome to the Give Back Show, where each week we try to spotlight the good that so many people are doing in fantasy football by shining a light on fantasy charity leagues and charity events that so many people in this world are doing, hopefully to encourage more people to take part and maybe even start up their own charity league or event. Tonight, I'm so psyched I get a chance to talk with Ronnie Evans. Ronnie is one of my partners on the Sports Affiliation, but he's also been doing so many other things that I'm just really excited to get a chance to, share the mic with him, let him tell us about, what he's doing, what led him to it, and especially to learn about the Judgement Seesaw Podathon that he does to raise awareness for mental health. So, Ronnie, thanks again for being on the show. As I said, I've been excited about this for so many weeks now to finally get a chance to chat and learn more about all the things you're doing, not just the charity stuff, but you're super busy. So why don't we just go ahead and jump in and let people find out more about you and all the different things that you're involved in. So where are you from? What are you doing? Go ahead and just take over.
Sure. So well, thanks for the intro. I don't think I'm as busy as people think. I've got a lot of balls that I'm juggling, I would say, in the proverbial basket here. But the truth is, there's just, I move slowly with things. And I think as I've gotten older, I'm not old yet by any means, but I'm in my mid-30s. So I'm in that weird age where I'm not young, but I'm not old. And I am starting to wisen up to things that I used to make mistakes on. And one of those was this incessant need to do things to validate myself with other people, and constantly try and rush things and stress and so forth. And so these days I've just I got a lot on my plate, but I'm not stressing about any of it. I'm taking my time. When I release stuff, I release stuff. When I do projects, I do them. And in the meantime, I'm just trying to relax and nail my interviews, not be Shedeur Sanders.
And as someone who's watched you for a while from afar and even close by, you're one of the most positive people in fantasy football. So no surprise that you're someone who's also concerned about mental health awareness and just kind of raising up the entirety of the community. So we'll get to that later, but I'm guessing you're from Atlanta or you're in the Atlanta area because we'll talk
I'm from Tennessee originally. I live in Atlanta and I'm an Atlanta boy at this point. I've been here for a decade. But I was born in Tennessee. I've lived in 13 different cities, I think, at this point. And moved around a lot, but Tennessee originally, grew up in Virginia, moved around kind of through my 20s and settled down in Atlanta down here with all my other ATL peeps and family, and I love it. Atlanta's a riot, man. It's quite a scene. It's a good spot.
And I was going to say, and you obviously root for the University of Tennessee, but do you have a professional team that you?
It's weird. I've talked about this on a few shows, and I've met a few other people in the industry that are like this, so I feel less weird about it than I used to. But I don't actually have an NFL team that I am really I bleed for. My team is the University of Tennessee and all of their sports teams. That is that and the Braves baseball team during the World Series and the playoffs. I care about baseball during that time period, but that's about it. For the NFL, I'm much more of a players fan. And what I mean by that, I started playing fantasy football, fell in love with stats and the whole nerd side of sports, in part because of Peyton Manning, and followed him from Tennessee when I was a young kid in the 90s. And so then became a Colts fan. And then I went to K-12 school with Russell Wilson, knew him through high school, followed him through the pros, and then was a Seahawks fan. had that really weird Super Bowl where Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson played each other, and it was just like the worst possible result I could imagine because it was a blowout. But it was still awesome to watch. But I don't know. I still like, if you put a gun to my head, please don't. But I would say the Seahawks, because I just spent so much of my adult life really learning to love their culture and the city, and made a lot of friends in the Seattle area. Shout out to Scott Engel, great friend of the TSA, but he's like a really good buddy of mine, and he's like the king of Seahawks sports media. So I would say I'm a Seahawks fan, but really I kind of tune in to watch players, and so.
And that's true of a lot of people in fantasy. I'm a Texan fan, but it's really hard for me to watch Texans game. One, because I think I'm going to jinx them. And so I try to avoid even looking at the scores until about Sunday at 10 o'clock, because I'm trying. And also, I think I'm going to jinx some of my players. All of a sudden, if I tune in on a game and I watch a player either drop a pass or worse, get injured, that my first thought is I caused it. So I try to avoid it.
I get that.
But I know this, and we're going to talk more about charity stuff. Obviously, that's the focus. But
sure.
I like to also learn from people about their the teams that they follow. And you mentioned you do at least follow the Seattle Seahawks. I don't get a chance to see very much of the Seahawks. So trying to get your feel for the team and maybe their prospects for 2025, how they did in the draft. And these will be the only kind of traditional fantasy sports questions, but
yeah, you're good.
Like to learn.
I lived in Denver for a little bit. So funnily enough, this offseason, I've been much more interested in what the Broncos are doing, because I love Bo Nix. He was my favorite quarterback last year in that class. And still have a lot of friends in Denver. So big on RJ Harvey, was really excited about that, especially for fantasy. He's probably the biggest mover for me in terms of fantasy relevance. But for Seattle, they're doing, we actually talked in the TSA chat about this a few months ago, and I went on this big tirade about how Seattle is doing the smart thing and acknowledging they do not have a Super Bowl caliber team right now, but they're close. So they need to basically soft punt and acquire the extra pieces to build for that. And then they went and brought in Darnold and did a few other things that were kind of against the soft reset that I was talking about. I think they're in a good spot. They're probably a 9-win team this year, somewhere around there. And I liked what they did in the draft. I thought they had an okay draft. It didn't blow my socks off, but this was kind of a boring draft class overall. So
it really wasn't the type of draft that seems to fit what the needs of Seattle were anyway. So they grabbed a running back, obviously as a running back deep draft. Next year's is probably a little bit more quarterback oriented. So going the Darnold route versus we lost your camera. Are you still there?
Yep.
There we go. And so I think that they've made smart decisions. They also, I think, grabbed a defensive back, and that's definitely an area that they needed help in. So, are you still hearing us?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Something happened, and all of a sudden my computer was playing music in the middle of that. That was very strange. Sorry.
It probably sounded better than my voice. So
no.
A good thing for you. Well, anyway, and I also like the Denver Broncos. I think they made some really good moves, and they had a strong draft. But so I'm really excited about the upcoming season. I know we'll talk more about traditional fantasy stuff on Thursday shows and throughout the week, but wanted to also let you tell us a little bit about your background and what you do when you're not doing fantasy football stuff.
Sure. So my background is in kind of music and the arts, and had a little career in the music industry, went to school for graphic design, kind of grew up my whole life bouncing between 3 friend groups. One was the nerdy kind of comic book artsy music-y friend group. One was the music party friend group, and then the jocks and the sports people. And so I still when I'm not doing fantasy football or AI stuff or mental health stuff or any charity related things, typically like you're like pretty boring. Like you're watching TV shows, love TV, love to relax and just kind of like check out. Still I accumulate and build playlists all the time and have been doing that my whole life and with music, but and I enjoy writing and reading too. I try to read over 100 books a year, and I've done that for like 20 straight years, and just want to accumulate. It's the best way, I think, to accumulate knowledge and keep your brain sharp. So try to read as much as I can.
So your background sounds very on the creative side, but also technology seems to also be in there as well. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of people are going to be interested in learning more about what you're doing in the artificial intelligence space. So do you want to tell us what you've been doing with that? I know you also have I think you have kind of like a business, or you do some extra work in AI. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So it kind of actually is directly tied into the mental health stuff too. But the AI side for me, like a little over 2 years ago, about 3 years ago, I really started to dive into AI and was at that point very early on relative to my peers. And just, I guess, because I'm a creative person and I've heard this from other creative people, like look at a simple AI tool and the ability to kind of step away and look at a 30,000 foot view and see how that could potentially affect everything else. Some people have an easy time thinking that way. Other people don't. In my own family, like my brother is not somebody like that. He's very successful, but he's a very linear thinker. And so it's, what was I trying to say there? I guess all I was trying to say is that I fell in love with AI and I've always loved tech, but I've been more of a tech enthusiast, not like a software developer or coder. But fell in love with generative AI about 3 years ago, really started heavily using it a little over 2 years ago, and built this brand called Good Guy AI, which I've been sitting on honestly for like 18 months now. I've had an interview series ready to go, a newsletter for it, which I got on shows and talked about last off season about like, oh, this newsletter for AI in the fantasy football space. I'm going to launch this. I'm going to launch that. A lot of like, I'm going to do things. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm at a point in my life where I'm really trying to just not rush myself, take my time, make sure I do things when I'm ready so that I can see them through and be successful. And so the Good Guy AI project has just been like quietly building in the background. I've made a couple hundred connections through it over the last couple of years, helped a number of fantasy football apps get off the ground, helped a lot of people start their AI journeys. And in June, the Judgement Seesaw is like my mental health show, which we'll talk about in a second. But following that, I'm launching the Good Guy AI interview series finally, and I'm actually doing it this year, where I'm going around and it'll be a number of people that have built really awesome tools with AI in the fantasy space. Interview them, talk about what they've built, talk about their AI journey, showcase some of their work, give people insights on how they can use those tools, but also AI creators that do really amazing art and really creative, like talented people that are using and really pushing AI to its limits. Got a number of them lined up where they're going to come on. We're going to showcase their work, teach people how to use those tools. And then behind all of that, there's a number of threads that are all like somewhere between 30% and 80% ready to go. But doing courses with a lot of those people that are coming on the show to help educate people. There is the newsletter I mentioned, a few other things, but Good Guy AI, really the point of it was basically to try and create a hub where I could go share like what I found, but also as I was looking into AI 2.5 years ago, I kept meeting all these people. And at the time, if you were into AI, you were like a weirdo. Like no one really knew anything about anything when it came to AI. You were genuinely, like you could meet 300 people and not a single one of them would have any idea what you're talking about. So when you met them, you became really good friends because you're like, like I speak a foreign language and I finally found another person that speaks the same language as me. We're going to be buddies because we have to be. And so at the time, I kept running into like, why are so many people not like seeing the big picture here and freaking out about this. And this was in 2022. And I realized a lot of it is because people have been programmed over the years, not like intentionally or anything, but just through pop culture and sci-fi and media and literature.
Robots taking
AI,
over.
yeah. AI and like apocalypse are synonymous. And
Sure.
so I kind of was like, I'm going to go create a platform. I'm going to call it Good Guy AI as kind of a tongue-in-cheek like pushback on that. And do a hub where I can go celebrate all these people that are doing amazing things that I'm meeting, all these people that have inspired me, that have built amazing things, that have taught me things, and then teach other people too.
And one, I love the naming because correct. I mean, you have people who are distrustful, they don't understand it, they feel like maybe it requires some technical background that, is like out of reach. I happen to work in the technology industry, and so AI is kind of like the big wave of business and agents and things to help people not just do like some creative work or research work, but improving their outcomes. And so
Yep.
but there's a lot of confusion, a lot of distrust, and the fact that you humanizing it by calling it Good Guy AI, and also I think you're talking about it and advising people about it in a way that's a lot more human friendly or user friendly maybe. And so love to get to see more as you progress, and I'll looking forward to seeing these interview series because
Yeah.
again, getting to hear people talk about it, I think is going to really allay some of the fears and the confusions. And they'll see that one, robots and AI isn't taking their jobs away. It's just kind of giving them a chance to do something a little bit more creative, a little bit more strategic, and at the same
Yeah.
time, doing some of the mundane stuff. Even in fantasy sports, I mean, going out and finding statistics, kind of a drudge work part of fantasy analysis. But if you can basically give a couple of interesting questions and have the AI agents go out and get the the information and put it into some sort of a creative form, I think that everyone's going to see how much more fun they're going to be able to have because they're not having to weigh themselves down and not mindless stats, but just boring stats throughout the whole day. So I'm really excited to be able to leverage it in fantasy sports, but I also have to do it in my work. So
I get that. Well, and the only thing I would add to that is that you had mentioned, like, hopefully it can show people that some of their concerns aren't warranted or so forth. I just say to that, like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't tell anyone that their concerns are not warranted. They are. Are they guaranteed? No. And that, I think, is what I have stood on for over 2 years now. It's just like, look, it might one day erase information security and then there's like a world war because of that. Or it might, like, there's 15 different scenarios that you could come up with where AI could in the end have a net negative impact on humanity. But there's like 300 scenarios where the net impact is positive. So I'm like, well, you're not going to stop it. I'm not going to stop it. None of us are going to stop it. So we can either spend all of our energy focusing on this negative outcome side of it, or we can just keep our eye on that, be aware of it. We make sure we're like paying attention and focus on the positives and how it can help us and improves our lives and improve what we do. It just seems, I haven't heard any good like retorts to that when it's broken down that way.
And exactly, and again, the positives that will come out of it, but also I think as long as we also emphasize that there's always going to be human interaction or human touch to all of this, and so it's not like we're going to just go ahead and have Robbie the robot sit in the corner and he's going to spit out everything and the work is done. No, it's again, we're going to look through it, make sure that things make sense to us, add our own human, knowledge and backgrounds and awareness, and we're going to be able to continue to have contact with the output, but or at least we should, because the AI won't be able to tell something doesn't sound right just based on the zeros and ones that it calculated to come up with something. So I'm still thinking that it's something I'm going to enjoy leveraging in my work, and also hopefully in my fantasy life as well.
Yeah.
And I know that again, how busy you are. You're also involved with the TSA family, and we love having you as a part of this team. But I think you also mentioned that something's going on with Roto Underworld, and so I thought we talk a little bit about that.
I'm gonna be doing some stuff with them, and I'll just leave it at that. Nothing like super crazy. There's no big announcement that needs to be made or anything like that. But they, Matt Kelly, the Fantasy Mansion founder of Player Footballer, has agreed. They're bringing me on to help them with a few things, which is cool. But then the Judgement Seesaw, they are going to also host on Player Profiler. So it's going to start on May 12th. Last year I did like May 1st. On April 30th, I was like, hey, everybody, I'm doing this mental health thing. Who wants to come be a guest? And then like put it all together in 24 hours and hit it for 30 days. And it was chaotic and stressful, but fitting. It was like perfect because it was a mental health thing, and it was all about managing chaos and stress. This year though, I don't want that shit. I'm totally good. Excuse my language, but I don't need the extra stress. So I instead of launching it on the 1st of May, we're doing the middle of May, May 12th. We're going to run it through the middle of June. And it'll be on Player Profiler. And Matt Kelly is awesome. Fantasy Mansion, just like Player Profiler in general, is amazing. Agreed, Joe. And he shout out to Matt. He and I have DM'd about AI a few times over the years, and he's one of the 10 or 20 like real big CEO style names that have just been keeping tabs on the AI stuff through me and hopefully through other people as well.
Well, awesome, and I'll look forward to keeping an eye out on what's going on, and hopefully get to see more of you out there as well. And then lastly, and one of the things that really kicked off a lot of interest in charity leagues and doing things for charity has been the Scott Fish Bowl, and I know you're also in your spare time, you're probably working on lots of things, and one of them of which is you're working with the Scott Fish Bowl. You want to tell us about your what you're doing on that as well?
Yeah. So Jeff DiMatteo, Nick Halfley, a few other people are helping manage it, but we're doing one of the live drafts for Scott Fish Bowl in Atlanta. We're doing it. It is June 28th. And it's going from 1 to 5 at the Hudson Grill in Atlanta. It's going to be amazing. And not only that, we're going to have a couple Scott Fish Bowl live drafts, but then Eric Froton from NBC, who is the linchpin of college fantasy football, is doing some live college fantasy football drafts this offseason with some relation to Scott Fish Bowl. I can't give any more details about that because I don't have the PR release in front of me yet to know exactly what to say. But we are doing college football drafts at the Scott Fish Bowl live in Atlanta as well. Two separate things working together.
But awesome, and again, more ways to be able to contribute to all the charities that are involved.
Yeah.
Do you have a local charity decided yet?
Oh yeah. So we're supporting the Gateway Center, which is they're incredible. They have, for the most part, eliminated homelessness in Atlanta. It's never like 100% eliminated, no matter where you are. But 15 years ago, you came to Atlanta, you saw a lot of homeless people. You come to Atlanta now, you do not see a lot of homeless people. And that is literally the work of the Gateway Center. And my dad is actually the chair of the board, friends with the CEO, and they are kind of, I don't think they're the biggest by donor charity in the Southeast by any means, But if you look at like who the big wigs in the South send their money to and kind of support or go to like the events for, and kind of Gateway seems to be that for at least Atlanta. All the really important people, I think they see the opposite end of the spectrum through the Gateway Center, and so they go in and support that. And what it's nice is it's not just an avenue for, it's not, I shouldn't even say just, it's not an avenue for like rich people to like feel good about themselves at all. I hope I didn't give that impression. It's just a really, really important organization that has done like nationally recognized work in Atlanta. They're really, really amazing people. Raphael is the CEO. He's going to be at the Atlanta Scott Fishbowl draft. He might be drafting too. They're going to speak there, and I'm super excited to work with them on it. They're great. I've been to their events a lot over the years.
Well, and again, what a super charity organization to support. And it's always good to be able to support local activities as well as the larger Fantasy Cares and all the different charities that Fantasy Cares supports. You don't need to draft in the Atlanta draft to support, so I would encourage people to, support this great charity organization in Atlanta. I'll throw in a plug for the Houston live draft. I've been coordinating that draft, and our local charity is the Houston Food Bank. One of the cool things about Scott Fishbowl is I know there's 30 plus live draft cities, and each have the opportunity to support the local draft. So if you aren't already connected to the Scott Fishbowl, please do so. There's so many great places to do live drafts from. On top of the live draft, I know that there's a lot of silent auctions and raffles and just the fun of being able to meet up with people who are also into fantasy football and also very cool about wanting to help support their local and the broader community around them. So I'll throw in that plug to Scott Fishbowl. This is supposed to be a show focusing on charity, and so perhaps this is a good segue to go and talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing, and specifically about Judgement Seesaw. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background on what that involves and what led you to that?
Sure. So for me, the quick anecdote, like why is Ronnie doing mental health stuff related to the fantasy football industry? It's well, here it is. I was adopted. I was in a really, really, really bad situation for the first 4 years of my life. Total chaos. Then I got taken out of that situation and adopted into a really, really good situation that has been, like, by every metric you could measure it, top of the class. And so I have always had this kind of baked into me. I don't know if it's gratitude is the exact right word, but this feeling that, like, I don't know, I feel like I was given a second chance that I had no part to play in. And so I feel like I got to give back in some way and have, like, a free pass, or not a free pass, but I'm on a free ride right now. So I got to make the most of it. But within that, I've had mental health issues because the formative years of my life were chaotic, and I've had my ups and downs throughout the years and struggled deeply with depression and anxiety. For this show, you sent me the show notes for it like a week ago, and I saw the email and was in a really, really depressed funk and didn't respond until like a day and a half ago. It was like, yeah, my bad. And so it's an ongoing, like, chronic thing for me. I struggle with it every day. I'm way, way better off than I used to be, and that is because I have what's up, Wendy? I have really invested in myself, really invested in, like, being aware about mental health and therapy. And the Judgement Seesaw is simply a show for the fantasy industry to get on and just talk through, like, mental health awareness, what people struggles within the industry, like navigating the fantasy industry itself, relationships in the industry, brand strategy, the whole 9 yards, but then also, like, personal stories and shares. And last year had a lot of, like, really remarkable people and famous people in the industry get on and share some stuff that like very personal that they hadn't talked about before. And I got so much good feedback from people that were saying things like, not about me, but just about like the content itself was really helpful. And that was the goal, is it's not about me. It's about mental health awareness and like just making sure the conversation is hit once a year. Shout out to the FF Face Off crew. They do their podathon every year as well. This year, I'm still working on the guest list, actually. But one of the people will be Eric Froton, who I mentioned earlier from NBC. He's going to come on, and he has some really amazing stuff to share about some stuff that he's been through that he has not talked about before. And so it's a good time. Going to raise money for charity with it. I'm still working out the details on that, but that will be a part of it. The last thing, the Judgement Seesaw itself. So the name, the name comes from a concept in economics that is like to help weigh users' buying habits and decisions if you're running a business. But in therapy, it is now used as a reference point for people to step back and love you too, Wendy. Step back and like assess whether they are really listening or they're judging, and like where they are in a moment of adversity. And it works like this. There is this weird thing with your brain where you literally can't judge and understand simultaneously. Your brain didn't work that way. You have to you're either judging or understanding, and you're jumping back between the two. And so the Judgement Seesaw is this cool little exercise you can play where you're like, all right, this person's pissing me off, or this situation's making me mad, or I'm really upset, or like something's awry. How am I approaching this, and how am I interpreting it? Am I operating from a place of judgment, or am I trying to understand the situation and navigate it with thoughtfulness? And so that's the rundown. That's a lot. I wanted to explain that all in 45 seconds, and it took me 5 minutes. So, I'll get it trimmed up before the show starts. But
no, and that's such and again, I think people, first of all, I think there was always a stigma about, if I'm struggling with, issues, I'm struggling with, things I'm thinking about or stresses I'm going through. And so as a result, people tend to internalize it and not get the help or even talk through some of the issues with others. And I think that, as we're raising the awareness to, we're all facing stresses, we're all facing challenges, and sometimes, some people have other ways to be able to release it. They have people they're close with, or, people, that they're able to talk through their issues with. But, the fact that, even in fantasy sports, even in professional sports, to have, perhaps, people who are sharing about their own challenges and their own, thoughts and, possible solutions, I think is such a strong contribution, to, society, because, as I mentioned, we all have these kind of stresses. It's just how, successful or how, how connected we are to be able to address them. And so I love the fact that you're, sharing your own experience and your own solutions to some of the challenges. You met, so you're lining up guests. Is this going to be like as a podcast series, or are you doing something like the guys at FF Face Off?
It'll be one singular episodes, one a day, every day for 30 days.
Wow.
And so, it's a lot. I mean, last year it's really good though. And last year I talked a lot about how freeing it was for me, because I had spent a couple of years not doing content. I had stepped away from things. I was suicidal and in a really tough place a few years ago. Stepped away and was like, I'm going to go really work hard on therapy, and I'll get back to this content stuff when I'm ready. But then when I was ready, I wasn't sure if I was. It had been so long. I was like, I don't know if I can still do this. So let me just go trial by fire this shit. I'm going to go do 30 episodes with 30 days with people like Bob Harris, Nick Whalen, and Derek Brown, and all these industry icons that I look up to. So if I can't do it, I'm going to fail in front of everyone. But I didn't. I succeeded, and it went really well. And so I'm really excited to do it again. It's a good freeing exercise for me. And it's, if you want a lesson to share for people that are watching. If you're worried about doing something, you don't have to go do like 30 times of what that one thing is, like I did, but just go do it. Why not? I have a note actually from therapy this week. I was talking about some anxiety I've had with some AI projects, about like the concept of starting these projects and like why I am getting frozen. And it was a lot of questions that I was having about like, well, what happens if I do it and it works? What happens if I do it and I fail and people don't like it, or blah, blah, blah. And like the therapy for that is to step away and be like, say, so what? Like, go find out. If it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out. But you can't sit here and allow yourself to live with the assumption that it will not work out or it will work out and just be paralyzed because of a hypothetical. So what?
And it seems like we're sometimes our own worst enemies, because we start, taking, external worries and internalizing them, and then allowing them to grow and fester. And again, you're right. There's, in most situations, and I've kind of lived a few years, so in most of the situations I've gone through, the things I worried the most about, I didn't really need to worry about them. There are some important things in your life that you're faced with, but most times, we overstress over things that really aren't that important. So, but I love the fact that you're I saw the show from, I guess, last year's series, or a couple of the shows from last year's series, and again, the fact that you're able to talk through and share each other's experiences, and and where you are now, I think is such a it's such a help. And so I'm looking forward to seeing it. You mentioned it's going to be running through the Roto Underworld website. We'll be able to see it on YouTube, I'm sure, correct?
Yeah, I'll stream it on Twitter again, like I did last year. But X is in a transition. Like it's a weird thing that's happened with the fantasy industry over the last few years. It literally the entire industry used to live on Twitter at the time. Now X, now it's like fractioned into like 4 different social media apps. So anyway, that's just a random anecdote. It's going to be on YouTube. It'll be on the Good Guy AI YouTube channel, but also on the Player Profiler now YouTube channel, which is a cool shout out to them. There's a bunch of people that are doing shows on the Player Profiler now, and it's something they launched recently that's allowing content creators to go like grease the wheels and go do content. It's pretty slick too. It's smart on their end. They basically get free content from these people that are trying to try it out. But for me, I was like, I know Matt loosely. I know a few of their employees. I was like, we were talking about me coming on to help them with 3 things, and I just threw it at them. And I was like, hey, by the way, Judgement Seesaw, it's coming up in a few weeks. Can we host it on your channel too? And they were like, yeah. So
awesome. And you mentioned some of the fractures and what was Twitter. I know a number of people have moved over to Blue Sky. Will you also be sharing it on Blue Sky?
I am launching my Blue Sky account with the Judgement Seesaw, so yes, I will.
Awesome.
I literally I love the concept of Blue Sky. Everything I've seen about it is great. Truth is, Rick, I hate social media so much. I honestly like I worked in the music industry with the 7th highest trafficked publication in the world for music, and ran their indie department. I was 21 years old, had the coolest job of any of my friends. Everyone in my friend group knew Ronnie was the guy with the cool job doing the cool things while we're all doing our graduate classes and this other crap. And all I had to do to make sure that like I never lost any of that was to go hammer social media. And it was just free clout. Like, hey, I'm with Ear Milk. I'm gonna post about this, do that, go get a couple 100,000 followers, and then just live off that for the rest of my life. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I've had this Twitter account for 13 years now, and I still have less than 5,000 followers because I can't. So anyway, Blue Sky is coming for me though. I'm gonna make an account. I'll just add another social media account to my life. But
yeah, I know that, and I've been over there for actually when they first launched, and I kind of watched to see if more people would come over from the the Twitter or X side of things. And the one thing I kind of wish that they don't have is like, I'll say blue sky groups or blue sky,
like chat
sort of
groups. Yeah.
chat groups. And that I think, that's still something that exists solely on Twitter. I know also some folks are moving over to Discord. Maybe I'm old school.
Discord gives me a headache.
Yeah.
No, it's not just you, man. It's another one. Like people are like, oh, follow us on Slack, Discord, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky. I'm like, just give me one. For years for me, I've been like, I got you on X. I'll follow you on X. We're good. Yeah. And now I got to go diversify.
Although I guess the perfect situation, the perfect world, you'd be able to, just go out underneath the tree somewhere and everybody would just be able to wander towards you and, sitting in the shade of a tree talking about things, and, that's one of the cool things about things like the Scott Fish Bowl, the FF, I'm drawing a blank on it. Bob Lung's the FF Expo in Canton. There's places where we can kind of gather and share information person to person. So but until that's something that exists for everybody, we'll have to leverage some of the social media tools we have. Speaking of so how can you remind people how they can best connect up with you so that they're able to get more information about your podcast series and other things that you're doing?
My podcast theories. My theories on podcasting and the universal constructs of entertainment. I just at Ronnie A. Evans. It's if you remove that comment from Buy and Sell You, which by the way, what's up, baby? It's at Ronnie A. Evans. It's up there at the top. If you see Ronnie Evans at the top of the screen, special guest, that's me. I am special. And it's Ronnie Evans with an A in the middle of the E. So Ronnie A. Evans. Just follow me on Twitter. Yeah, I think I have accounts on every platform, but like I don't use them. So you can follow me on the other ones if you want to. I won't follow you back though, because I won't see it.
And again, any idea of when this is going to start? You said mid-May?
Yeah, May 12th be the first
Perfect.
episode.
Well, I would encourage folks to search you out, have a chance to watch some of these. An extraordinary opportunity to, hear some really good content. And I know as we get closer and closer to the season start, folks are going to be more focused on start sit questions and, who do I draft in this draft? But one of the things I'm most excited about is, how people within the community help support each other and help support the broader community around you. And so what you're doing is wonderful work. Also would encourage folks to track you down about AI. So that's, I know another thing we should be doing. So.
Hey, yeah. Well, actually, like there's just a note on that. There's a couple people in the chat, like Mel. Mel has asked me for AI help a few times over the last year. I failed. I didn't help her. And it's just a note on the minute. We'll talk about it during the Judgement Seesaw. But one of the things for me is like patience with myself. But what I struggle with is conveying that patience to other people clearly in a way that makes it look like it's not me just blowing them off, which is what typically happens. But yeah, hit me up for AI questions and everything. I am pretty receptive to all of that now. But over the last year or so, I've been like the quote unquote AI guy. I don't know who dubbed me as that initially, but I've been that for plenty of people. But for a lot of people, I think I've been around. They've asked me questions about AI. I've given them a very brief answer and moved on, and it hasn't really been that helpful. So just wanted to let you guys know I am aware and I'm working on it.
And I know Sam, brings up in his comment that and to talk to Ronnie at the Expo. So I'm guessing you are going to be in Canton.
90 95%. Might be closer to 90. It's in jeopardy this year, but we'll see.
Okay.
I need someone to sponsor my trip to the expo.
Well, you have an audience now, so hopefully
Yeah.
we're going to do the GoFundMe to get Ronnie.
Yeah, I'll do a GoFundMe to get Ronnie to the expo. No, I don't need all that. I just don't know if the schedule's going to line up, and it's expensive, and as it is for a lot of people right now, money's tight for me.
Oh gosh, yes. No, I definitely know that feeling. Well, Sam saying you're going. I wanted.
Yeah, and Sam's like, "You're my ride. Please go."
Sam's going to swing down through Atlanta, pick you up, and drive you up there. Ronnie, as I said, for weeks I've been looking forward to getting a chance to have you as a guest and to get a chance to talk with you, and not just about the charity stuff that you're working on, but just getting a chance to talk with you. You're such a cool guy, and I'm hoping that we can get this to happen again next year, and we can learn more and find out how successful the Jigsaw Seesaw. I'm drawing
the Jigsaw Seesaw. I love it. I'm gonna have you on for one of these years, and I'm gonna call that episode the Jigsaw Seesaw.
Please do, because I definitely need it. But and again, we'll look forward to seeing more from you on the different social sites as we go on. And I wanted to also remind anyone out in the audience that if you're doing something, a charity league or a charity event, and you'd like to come on a future show and talk about it, love to be able to raise awareness to both the activity and also the charity that you're supporting. So please reach out to me on, and boy, I have to get rid of that as well. But get a hold of me at Arbus Wallace. It's my Twitter account, and we'll go ahead and try to schedule it on. And thanks everyone. Thanks Ronnie for being on the show. Thanks everyone for watching. Next Tuesday night, Michael Reedy is going to be my guest. So hope you're able to come back Tuesday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, continue to do good and always look for opportunities to give back. So, good night, everyone.